Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Law of Attraction 2.0, Widening the Lens on the Law of Attraction. If you're enjoying Kris's unparalleled metaphysical content, then please hit the like button, subscribe, press the bell icon so that you get notified when we release cool, new metaphysical content. It's really the only way that the YouTube algorithm will notice Kris's work. So if you want to help out the channel, press the like button, hit subscribe, and let's jump into the content. And welcome everyone to another episode of Law of Attraction 2.0. And we're here with Serge and Myrna. And we've just been having this fantastic conversation. I know we've been talking a lot about identity in this series. Who are we? And really how we're creating and getting a different angle on the law of attraction. We've just been having this wonderful conversation about quantum powers and that a lot of these different things that we're saying and been talking about in this series, many people have come to these same conclusions and in many different ways, and that they all match up and seem to come back to these channeled sources and these deep sets of wisdom. So we're just chatting about that, and I think Kris here shortly is going to have something to say, but we'll let everybody say hi.
Hi. Excited to continue the conversation. I have further questions with Kris, and I feel actually quite giddy at this point because I feel my world is really bursting wide open, which is so lovely. So glad to be here.
Oh, thanks, Myrna.
And hi, Dan, and hi, Myrna. And yeah, the conversation we were having is quite nice. It sparks a lot of new ideas and creativity, and it shows that creativity is here in abundance. Just maybe we're not taking advantage of it or using it as much as we could.
Well, there needs to your point, Serge, there are some paradigm shifts that are necessary in order to enliven that creative impulse. If we're loaded down, if speaking from my own experience, loaded down with all sorts of shoulds and all sorts of guidelines as to how to live my life and who am I really, then that creative impulse isn't given much room to grow, to expand. And further to our conversations with Kris, starting with who are we really? Who are we really? I would love him to continue to expand on that, and then I have some more questions about what if I'm the universe and the universe is me, what difference does it make in my life to know that? I wanted to explore that. I want to explore how do we get in touch with this wider, deeper, higher me? How do we get in touch? And then a bucket, how might I stand in my own way? How might I prevent myself from actualizing this knowledge that I've been given? So yeah, lots of good material that I would love his, her, them, they thoughts on.
You ready? Now we trust that you are comfortable, and we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, and for yours as well.
Now, in the prior conversation and in this one, you brought up a few interesting points, that there is a paradigm shift occurring. And it is not simply to move into one ordinary situation into another ordinary situation. For all intents and purposes, most people no longer want ordinary. They want that which brings out the very best in them, not that which keeps them down or suppresses their very best, or say a corporation's idea of how they should be best for the corporation. They want to be their very best all the time. So you have a large segment of the younger population which is recognizing that the 9 to 5 and the promises of happiness, if you only work so many hours a week, if you please the boss, if you have a little life, at one point in time in your life, you may become happy. They are disillusioned with that. They are basically Sleeping Beauty waking up. And not because of the kiss of Prince Charming, but because life, the universe within them is calling, is saying, wakey, wakey, smell the coffee. One of the difficulties is not so much that people do not necessarily know who and what they are. They do have a certain sense of it, but the system within which they function seems to want to keep them same old way. And if you want to awaken, if you want to change, you might not like how other people might respond to you. So it is best to zip it, be quiet, become a wallpaper again. Do not say too much. But this is not what people want anymore. People no longer want to be suppressed. And because they know this, there is an interesting phenomenon of growth, and it is exponential. And by this, we mean there are more and more people. And we do not necessarily say thought leaders, but they are the ones that have recognized that they have the ability to take that torch and light the way for others to follow, to heed the call of their own greater potential. And we have always maintained potential is love. Love is potential. And that is why this awakening is so important. When people, for instance, buy tropical plants, and of course, the tropical houseplant industry since the beginning of COVID has exploded. People buy plants. And then they realize after a little while that the plant is not doing so well. They may think, perhaps I am not watering it properly, too much water, not enough water. Perhaps the environment is too dry, not enough sunlight, and so on and so forth. Many people discover that when they pull the plant out of the soil, the plant, the root ball, is actually imprisoned in a tiny little slotted cup that stifles the roots, and if not cut off, removed, the plant will atrophy and die. It has no room to grow, because the growth of the plant cannot necessarily be measured by how big the leaves get, but how strong the roots are. And these tiny little slotted cups damage the plant. So in terms of this little analogy, the idea is to cut away that which stymies your growth. All the, forgive the play on the words here, but all the root assumptions. Isn't that sweet?
Yes.
All of these things that are then fueled by expectations create the reality that you experience. So the idea that one has to recognize what stymies your growth, and it will be assumptions, thinking in a particular way, thinking very small, very restricted, just like that tiny little slotted cup that the roots are stuck in and cannot expand. So by recognizing this, removing that which stymies, meaning the different kinds of layers of restrictive beliefs or assumptions, frees the individual. And these torchbearers are lighting the way, saying, look here, we, in one way or another, recognized what restricted our growth. We were too small. We were thinking too small. We were thinking that we cannot affect our lives or anything. We got rid of those layers, those mantles. We started to grow. Our root system started to expand. We became much better rooted in the energy or the paradigms of the universe, not the paradigms of small thinking, which are based on fear. And in this way, other people are waking up. And it is happening all over the place. The news might like to say that there are troubles all over the world, but they never mention that as a result, many people are waking up. They are saying, we do not want this system any longer. We are done with this system. Therefore, a more expanded state of being is welcomed. And it does require a little bit of work, some introspection. It does require nurturing and support. But the end result is that which is already calling this new generation to step into the reality that is already waiting for them. But they have to be strong enough. They have to have the right kind of root system within which to anchor their being, to root their being into this rich soil that uplifts the whole world. Even if it uplifts the whole world, one being at a time. So this is a particular call to action, if you like. And it is, in a way, as you have already presented, law of attraction 2.0, but it is no longer necessarily law of attraction now.
Yeah.
It is a particular state of being. It is already existing. It simply needs to be brought into the reality. That vision exists already. People may not know. They have all sorts of aspirations, inspiration, creativity, but they have not been told that it is safe to let this creativity, this inspiration out. So these torchbearers are saying just that. Come now. It is safe. And we echo that. It is safe to be a new you. It is no longer safe to be the old you, because the old you does not necessarily provide the internal or spiritual or psychological or mental nourishment for you to grow into the being that you want to be. Does this make sense to you?
Well, it makes sense, and I'm going to try something since you brought up the word safe. So root assumptions, beliefs, expectations. We come into this lifetime into certain families and into certain societies and cultures. And even precognitively, from the time of birth, even prenatal to the time of birth, and maybe up to what, 8, 9, 10 months. All I know is I am, and I'm not thinking this clearly, I need to be safe here. I need to do what mommy and daddy ask me to do. I have to figure out how to be safe here. And I end up adopting whatever strategies, beliefs, expectations they have, because that's how I'm going to stay safe. Now, that's that small little cup.
Indeed. They model that because it is all that is presented to them.
Correct. And so, at the core, one of the major beliefs is, oh my God, when's the next shoe going to drop? You've said this often enough. When's the next shoe? If I step out of, if I try and maybe, widen my horizons, oh my God, when is the next shoe going to drop? What I can own for so many years was a sense of powerlessness, because I believed that stuff was happening to me outside of me. It's what I grew up in. It's the small little container I grew up in. And I needed to stay safe. I felt I needed to feel safe because I didn't feel powerful.
And great many people want to have this greater framework of thinking, but often revert to the old system.
Yes.
Especially since we have spoken about this many times and you have brought it up, but this other shoe constantly going to drop any moment, any kind of shoe. You would think by now that everyone is an Imelda Marcos with unlimited amount of shoes, but it is not the case.
So, Kris, the key to unlocking is when I, over the years, after listening to you and integrating what you've offered, not only knowledge, tools, techniques, etc., I now know I'm not powerless. This is the key. I am not powerless. In fact, you have said for years, I'm the power, everybody, I'm the power that creates universes. The universe is me and I am the universe. What a paradigm shift. And that is, if anything is going to change, and it is changing, it's the idea that there's nothing outside of myself. It's not an impersonal universe. It's a personal universe. It's me. Well,
Indeed.
Who grew up in this culture thinking that with all of the religious stuff surrounding us? Yes, that's the key out of here. The beginning of it, anyway, is to understand that me and my deep, wide self is in charge here.
A fire needs a spark. Even the tiniest spark can create a raging blaze, but the spark needs to be there. And the spark comes with the idea that, hey, it is not only that I am the universe is me, I am in the universe is in me, and so on and so forth. It is about the thinking, because you can think about all these things, but still operate at the old values.
Yes.
The idea is that you have to recognize that you need to end operating on the old platform. So, for instance, again, the idea that you live in an abundant universe because you are that abundance. And then thinking, oh, what happens if I miss this or do that? Learning to manage one's thought processes is paramount. That is what maintains the paradigm shift. That is what keeps you going. So the idea of being able to recognize how you think, what you think, and how you put these things together is primordial. Learning to recognize when certain thought patterns start acting up. Recognizing it and taking action to decide, I choose not to venture there. I am fresh out of shoes today, no more shoes today. That will exponentially increase your success. And the more you think on this higher platform, for lack of a better word, the less you are going to think on the lower platform. The more you utilize Windows 11, the less you are tempted to utilize Windows 3.1. But if you keep using Windows 11 and then periodically or frequently still trying to make Windows 3.5 work, you are going to indeed be in a pickle. So the idea is to let the old go. It is no longer useful. You no longer function mentally as a child, perhaps except for some ex-presidents or other, but you no longer function as a child. You are a grown being. In fact, you might not even remember what you used to think about as a child and how you put your child worldview together, because you are now in the adult worldview. So you have given that up. You have given so many things up, so many views of yourselves over the ages. It is really a no-brainer to consider that you can also give up all those different yous that no longer work anymore and start adopting and collaborating and integrating the new you, the you that recognizes not only that it lives inside the universe and the universe lives inside it, but that it is a functional, physical universe. That makes a significant difference. And if you want to talk about quantum, you need this kind of a quantum leap in thinking, wherein it is no longer only up to the intellect, logical, rational mind, and ego, in your terms, that runs the show, but that it needs integration with the imagination, the feelings, the emotions, the creativity, and everything else. When this is properly brought together, properly amalgamated, an entirely new person emerges. This is what the alchemists have always wanted. The transformation of the old into the new. Lead and other base elements transmuted into the more precious elements, gold and others, but mostly gold, because it is seen as the most precious. So if you do want this particular alchemical process, then it requires to first recognize what is the old elements, how to stop using them. And you only use them because you are afraid that perhaps the new way of thinking might not be as solid as the old one, even though the old one is stifling you, choking you, taking your breath away. Once you become a little more accustomed and familiar with the new thinking, then you might not ever want to go back to the old thinking. You may certainly appreciate it because it got you where you are. But at the same time, now you have something new to direct your attention to, the new you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And although physically, I certainly have changed from a small child to who I am now. However, some of those root assumptions, without even being aware of it, I've carried through my entire lifetime, get the old operating system.
Indeed.
So this series of videos is not set up to do what we've been able to do in our private sessions with you and in our online courses. There is now an ability to identify some of these root assumptions that are keeping us back. And over the years, and over all of these sessions you've provided, there are so many tools and techniques that I've acquired. Once I'm aware that there's a thought that's not working for me, although I've been using it forever, and I now have ways to transmute that thought. But we're not set up to do that here. And
indeed, but there is something that we can provide here, and it is based on the old way of thinking, and it is how people approach a problem, a challenge. First order of business: hurry up and start worrying. Come on, worry more, and then worry some more. Because if you do not worry, you might not be able to solve the problem. Never mind that no worry has ever solved any problem anywhere in the entire history of the universe, and even probable realities. But the idea is that one must really start worrying. All you get is, because you concentrate on it, is more of the same, and you see your way out of the challenge less and less. In fact, you may think that somehow or other you have painted yourself in a corner. So, as interesting as it is to use the great and majestic abilities of empirical thinking, utilizing the ego, logical, rational, intellectual mind, you already know through countless experiences that this is not effective. All it does is create more anxiety, more panic, more stress. And that just keeps the cycle going. So once you recognize you have just gotten onto the merry-go-round, slap the brakes on, panic brake, instant stop. You do not have to worry. You're not going to hurt the worry, but you are going to save yourself a heck of a lot of hassle. Panic stop right now and make a determined observation that as of this very moment, you will stop feeding the worry, because it is not a good tenant. It does not pay rent. It does not bring you any happiness. It keeps you awake at night. Who wants that kind of a tenant in their head? So stop right away. As well as you stop, then start diverting your attention to something else, something entirely different, something completely different. Even if you have to go bake a cake, go for a walk. And whenever you see your mind start wandering back, saying to you, whispering, hey, don't you think you should worry a little bit more now? No, thank you. I am not doing that at this moment. I am going to maintain and honor my commitment to not go there. I will preoccupy myself, my energy, my attention with other situations that are much more pleasant. Of course, at first it will be a struggle because you have become addicted to that. So you will have withdrawal symptoms. The more you stick with your commitment, the less you will struggle. And seemingly out of nowhere, perhaps you will have a dream, perhaps you will awaken with an idea, somehow or other serendipitously dropped into your mind in the morning, or you will go out for a walk or talk to a friend, and out of the blue, your answer will show up. Or you may think, this is insane. But we can assure you that some of your world's great scientists have operated and benefited from just such an approach. Some of the great thinkers of your world, some of the great philosophers, even from ancient times, have advocated that and have proven time and again that it works. But the difficulty is that you can prove for yourself that it does not work, because you will hang on to the old process. And whatever you want to prove, you will prove to yourself. Of that, there is no doubt, because it depends on what you concentrate upon. So if you want to try this simple method, do it. What have you got to lose? Allow that which is bigger than you to bring you the answer, and expect it. It's not going to come along the lines of your original old-fashioned thinking. It will come from left field. It may come from the back door as opposed to the front door of your awareness. It will come in any such way. Just be open to all possibilities. Once you start getting answers, once you start getting insights, you might never open the door to the old ways again. Put it to the test. Now, Dan, how is the time going on?
Well, Kris, I think we could be at a little time to take a little break for a few minutes, and then
Indeed.
we'll have 2 episodes.
Indeed, then, make it so.
Thanks for watching, and if you would like to leave a question for Kris, drop it in the comments below. Myself, Serge, or someone from the Kris team will be checking and may use them to drive the discussion, put them in future episodes. So if you'd like to interact with the Kris community, feel free. Put your questions below, and we'd love to hear from you, and see you again next time.